Okay, so let's get to it. Now, we often encourage Nigerians to get involved in politics. Join parties, attend meetings, speak up. But even when people are politically aware, one question lingers: do they truly have access? Movements like the NSAS and the Obedient Movement, WAVE, awaken a new sense of political consciousness, especially among young people. Add that to the campaign like Not Too Young to Run, which successfully lowered the age barrier among for holding office. Social media has played its part in democratizing information and amplifying voices that would otherwise be ignored. But awareness, as important as it is, does not automatically translate to access, nor does it open the door to participation. Financial and structural barriers remain daunting. Nomination fees can reach tens of millions of naira in a country where youth unemployment hovers around 64%. Now, this makes genuine political ambition feel like a fantasy. Women, too, are sidelined, holding just about 4.4% of seats in the federal parliament. Even those who want to get involved often don't know how. So we're left with a crucial gap: people who care but can't cross the line into influence. Until access matches awareness, political participation in Nigeria will remain an invitation only a few can accept. And at what cost? So let's have conversation this morning. We have three people on our panel. First is with me here in the studio is Kate Banjoko, who is a former House of Reps aspirant on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We also have in our Abuja studio Ahmed Buhari, a former presidential candidate, Sustainable National Party, and former vice presidential candidate on the African Democratic Congress ticket. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And joining us on the virtual space is Professor Okaide Ishwala, who is a research professor at the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies. He's a professor of political science. I appreciate your time this morning, Prof.
Good morning. Thank you.
Let me start with you. Awareness versus access. When we discussed, when we mentioned, we had an initial on having this conversation. For you, what are the issues that are at stake? A good number of people talk about politics, and of course, when you get on the social media, you hear all kinds, you see all kinds, you read all kinds, and you're wondering, are we in the same country? So, from what you understand, as a student, if I can call you a student of political science, what's the dichotomy, the difference between political awareness and political access? Is it that those who are aware don't want to get in, or you think they would just rather not? What do you think is the real issue, Prof?
It is highly skewed in the sense that there is practically no one today who will claim that they are not aware of whatever is going on in the polity. Thanks to social media and other forms of engagement that have come to revolutionize the society. However, as you have said, one thing is awareness, the other one is participation, which you rightly put as access. So, in spite of people's awareness, are they having access to participate in politics? That is the question that seems like what we want to debate. And in that, I want to provide the background that political participation that we are talking about now is presumed under a democratic system of government. And under that system, there are, in a sense, two dimensions to political participation. One is the prescribed one, the prescribed aspect by the law, by the Constitution. And so you should vote, you can be voted for, You can form political party, you can join political associations. And when you have this dimension to participation, you also have prescriptions of criteria that you can follow to be able to do them or engage in them. That includes your age. You could be 18, you know. It also means you must have certain levels of qualification, or you belong to a particular nationality, as the case may be. But apart from the prescribed, you also have the initiated ones. Those ones that are not necessarily prescribed by the law, but that citizens and non-citizens alike can at any time, you know, spontaneously initiate based on the dominant occurrences in the political system. And that's where you have, you know, demonstration, protest action, protest behavior. You have, the list is endless, you know. And of course, this does not have prescription of the law. You don't have to be in Nigeria.
You know, but Prof, if I can quickly interject, there is a background to all of this. It wasn't like this in the First Republic. And I remember in the Second Republic, even some, you know, people, they will show their membership cards and say, this is how much I paid on a frequent basis or on a regular basis into my political party. But these days, it will seem like that's no longer the thing. The political participation in the Second Republic that I remember was a lot more than what we're getting today. Is there a reason for that, Prof?
Well, there are 1,000,001 reasons, but all of them can culminate into one thing. The volatility of the political system. The political system, the political environment is volatile today, laden with violence, laden with all sorts of things that we never, ever witnessed in the republic that we're talking about. For instance, even for you to come out and indicate your interest in any electoral post at a gladiatorial level, you probably must or should have one godfather somewhere who must endorse you before you can even paste your posters or stretch out your banners or even move from one point to the other to campaign.
Interestingly, Prof, my apologies. My apologies, Prof. That point that you made is good ground for me to take on the two people with us in the studio, because in this discussion, because they have participated before. Let's find out if they had godfathers. Kate is here with me. Well, you get the drift of the conversation, and you are a professional, and then you decided to get into politics. And then, how has it been for you?
Good morning once again, everyone watching, and good morning, Ayo. I'm sorry about your cold. Okay, so politics, I always tell people, when you talk about Godfather, the Godfatherism is everywhere. Even in the church, you must have somebody speaking for you in the room, rooms where your feet cannot get to. Who are those people speaking for you? If it's your mother, she's your godfather. If it's your father, he's your godfather. If it's your brother, he's your godfather. You know, somebody who is speaking on your behalf, making sure that your voice is registered, making sure that the things that you want to achieve are projected to the people that should make decisions. That is the person that you see as your godfather. Godfatherism doesn't necessarily mean that the person must be God over you. But the person takes steps to ensure that you achieve what you want to achieve easier than struggling to get to where you're going.
But at what cost?
Now, you see, that cost is a personal thing. I didn't have to pay any cost to anyone, right? All I did was make my intentions known, spoke to a few people and said, okay, go and meet this person, go and meet that person, go and meet that person. When I got to the people that were higher up there, and they saw my potential, they said, oh, in fact, the person I went to meet said the position I wanted wasn't what he thought I deserved, because I had more qualifications than that. And I said, no, I wanted to start from the grassroots. I want to understand what the grassroots is. Of course, we're going higher, but I want to understand what the grassroots is. And I got into office. I mean, the chairman at the time was not hostile, and they didn't demand anything from me that is immoral. I will put it that way because, I mean, we're on national TV. But we worked together and achieved together. And I'm still on that pathway right now. And you see, if you have what it takes, bring your qualities to bear, bring your achievements to bear, bring your know-how to bear, people will listen. You know, I used to work with the boss that said, as a woman, you must have at least one of two things. One, you must have capability and ability. Two, or you want to have maybe beauty to get to where you're going. The third one, is that you must have the two. And when you have the two, it's difficult for people to push you aside. It's difficult for people to make you become a pushover. Right now, we're going into the LGA elections as we speak. And in my community, I was put on 3 boards, 3 electoral boards. I didn't even ask for it. But I know that somebody or some people are speaking for me in the rooms where my feet cannot get to.
Okay, let me see if that's Mr. Buhari's experience as well. You're with us in the studio right there in Abuja. So, I mean, you've contested presidential, you've contested vice presidential. What's your own experience with the real crucial issue of this conversation, so we don't miss the track, is on the one hand, people are aware. On the other hand, we have a challenge of participation.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Ayo. So I slightly disagree with your guest in the studio in Lagos because indeed what I would advocate for and what I've already started doing is to create mentorship camps. I expect that those who are older, those who are very experienced, those who have been through all of this, should be ready to offer mentorship to young people and let them thrive. The interference from certain individuals that categorize themselves as godfathers trying to direct the trajectory has actually part of the things that have actually brought us to where we are today. My expectation would be that for anybody who has done his time and garnered enough experiences, understand the terrain, they should be willing to speak to as many young people as possible and let them be. We can see what is happening in Rivers State, we can see what is happening in other parts of the political terrain across the country where certain individuals would believe that if I give this particular man or woman a push, they will invariably be present at every time to listen to me, to listen to me and do whatever I ask them to do. And in most cases, the circumstance changes when these new people get into office, because when they get into office, there are new realities and new challenges that is being thrown at them. And it's expected that those experiences that they have garnered or education that they have learned from those older people would not help them to navigate through the murky waters. But at that particular time, we have somebody who has called himself a retired, now coming back to meet somebody who is in service to say, don't do it like that. Forgetting the fact that they are no longer in the system to understand the new challenges. And so when you say, and is Nigeria moving forward, many people will say, not exactly. It looks like we're a bit of a stagnant nation. And that is because the ideas are refusing, with the system, or the individuals in the system are refusing to allow those ideas to thrive. And again, if I had a godfather, honestly, I probably would be in office by now.
Okay, so I assume that what you're saying is that you don't have a godfather. But before I get off of you, tell us how the influence of social media in this awareness versus access space. When you go through the streets of, some people say the streets of Twitter, and the rest of them, and you read the comments that people make, particularly about, you know, current office holders, a good number of time we focus on the federal government, the federal seats, the National Assembly, the presidency. But hardly do we look at the fact that, okay, there is something in the region of 1 trillion naira playing around the states now, and how much more at the local government level. So no one is paying attention to that. Everyone is, looking at the president or looking at the presidency, and forgetting that there's a lot more that can be done with their states, at their states and local government, including their wards. So what's the challenge that you see from your experience?
Obviously, social media has come to stay. It has really helped to, send information as far as and as wide as possible. It's also expected that those people who want certain information to be heard will be willing and ready to push this information out. You cannot expect the general public to be totally aware when you are not allowing them to express themselves as much as they're supposed to. We are all agreed a couple of years ago that we're going to have the Freedom of Information, Freedom of Speech Bill, and all of a sudden we're also hearing now that we're going to kind of concise that in a way. And we've also seen a lot of people who are about to speak and they're being told that you cannot talk more than you are supposed to talk. And why we're able to get this level of conversation around the federal is because the federal is in the center of everything, and the governors and the people in the National Assembly have actually managed to divert the attention of the Nigerian people towards the center, which is why we've been asking for the total decentralization of the center. If you want to hold on to so much, people are going to expect so much from you. And that is why we're having those problems. I expect that the center should be very, very open and say, you know what, I have dished out the responsibilities to these different arms of government, and I expect them to be independent. But when you are seen as the federal, as the center, to always be in the middle of a single mix, whether it's with the National Assembly, whether it's with the state government, whether it's with the local government, people would always come back to look at you and expect you to fix the entire nation. Let us allow this decentralization to happen, and if it happens, I can assure you that to a large extent we will see the flow of governance to the grassroots, and people will start receiving the dividends of democracy that they do deserve.
The natural question I would have loved to ask you is exactly what is holding the state governors from doing what they're supposed to do. Anyway, let me ask you, Prof. You spoke about
I can respond.
No, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Mr. Buhari. But let me come to you, Prof. You mentioned the fact that the political system seems to have failed. Now, in terms of access, don't you see the political parties as having a role to play? The entry barrier by age is lowered, but the entry barrier by other means, getting a seat in the room, Mrs. Banjoko here was just saying that you need a voice in the room to speak for you and all of that. In a system where the political systems are working the way they should work, do you see meritocracy at play here now, or you see that as a work in progress that we need to still do some tinkering with?
I think we have a lot to do, because we also must always put issues in perspective. When we say Godfatherism, for instance, we do not mean presence of godfathers. What my colleague there refers to as having somebody to speak for you is absolutely correct in politics. It is legitimate. It is done anywhere, all over the world, even in the United States of America. However, presence of godfather does not become Godfatherism until it becomes a scenario that has been printed by our colleagues from Abuja. A case in which somebody somewhere forces you to do illegal, illegitimate things simply because he or she has some power over you, which you call the power of the Godfather. That is the kind of thing that we are talking about, that is making the political system volatile. And I think we need to be serious as a country while trying to solve this problem. It is one main thing that prevents people from having access to political office. You need to worship somebody, somebody must give you endorsement. As I was trying to say before, even it is so bad at local government level that for you to be able to paste your banner or even stretch out your posters on any street, you must bribe some people. Somebody must tell you that you have been endorsed by this godfather or the other for you to be able to do that. We know all these things. But, I mean, when politicians talk, we know that politics is like a deal. You don't give all the facts in the public, and that's quite understandable because every profession has its own.
I'll definitely take up someone on that one. But the question I want to ask you is, just a second, sir, Prof, is what's the role of the political party, the party structure itself? What is the role? Because while we talk about, one godfather or the other godfather, I mean, in the same political party, 10 people can have 10 different godfathers, and they will have their own internal crisis. But if there is a political system that encourages young blood, young ideas, new ideas to fester, young individuals, aspiring, ambitious persons to come into the system and express themselves and have their say, wouldn't it make a difference that all of these access challenges, participation challenges we're talking about would have been significantly dealt with if the system was made to work?
So, Makinde, I overheard you compare the political parties we have now with what we had in the First Republic. I put it across straight away that never, not even at one time has Nigeria been able to achieve political parties in the real sense of the phrase. What we have been political windows that political gladiators take opportunities of by jumping from one to the other to be able to market one another. What we know about political party is a platform for ideological unification, people of like minds, like philosophy, like worldview, who come together to forge way forward to a particular state. And the ideology, although can shift a bit here and there based on the global dominant mode of production, but it basically remains the same, in terms of content. We have not had that in Nigeria, and that is one of the reasons we have not had access. So what you see is the jumping from one political party or the other, because the intention is to realize political ambition. And I like the way you put it, ambition. In those places where they have political offices, they do not have political ambition, they have political intention. Intention is to make things happen. Ambition is to do things for yourself. Ambition is personal. It is self-aggrandizing. And that is what we have had in Nigeria so far. So in summary, we have all the years have a crop of politically ambitious, not, ambitious people who in most cases want to get to power for getting power's sake and then solve their personal problems. We have not really had those who are solving for national cohesion, development, and so on and so forth. Of course, I'm not generalizing that all politicians are like this. That caveat must be given. But those who we have seen so far at the dominant stage, you all know their names. Today they are saying this, tomorrow they are saying another thing, extremely different. Those are the people who have dominated the scene. There are good ones around. Unfortunately, they've not been given the chance. But those who dominate the scene, as at now, are not political party members. They are political jobbers, moving from one political shop to the other for their personal ambition. That is what I see.
Well, thank you, Prof. And one would wonder, Mrs. Banjuko, if, that may or may not be your experience, but let's begin to, to come home with this discussion. What must change? There are those who believe that political parties are not as open and inclusive and accountable as they ought to be. So if we're going to have a political system that is open, that allows access, what must change?
Okay, so when you say open and access, The political party that I belong to, the All Progressive Congress, where our slogan is, I will say it in Yoruba, Bare Wasibi, Kunshe Bare Dasong. That means, come here. We don't chase people away. We don't send people away. We want everybody to come. It's an all-encompassing political party. That's why it's called All Progressive Congress. Now, what will change is people's mindsets. That's what should change. One of my political leaders once said to me, if you come into a political party with the purpose of ambition, like the Prof has just said, you've gotten it wrong from the beginning. You must come in with a mindset of sharing the same ideology as the party in which you want to be part of. Now, you must have a passion for being a politician. You don't just come into politics because, oh, the next thing is I want to get to a ticket. And if I don't get the ticket, I throw tantrums and I go. And then I start spoiling or bad-mouthing that party because I didn't get the ticket. And you have forgotten that there were people before you got in. Now, but if you come in with the mindset of, I want to add my quota, my voice to what is happening in the nation, I want to be a nation builder, then the narrative is different. And then you can come in and ensure that that is what you have come to achieve. If in that process, you now get the ticket or you are seen to be capable and people begin to push you forward, then you know that, okay, this is time for me to serve, not a time for me to acquire power, acquire assets, no, this is a time for me to serve my people.
But, you know, this is easier said. Because, just a second, you know what is going on in the polity now. One political machinery after another political machinery. I was in this political party. Now I'm going to move into this place because that other political party is doing this, is doing that. Now we're talking about the ADC. Previously we were talking about the Labour Party and all of those things. And this will be like the same political personnel, as Prof said, that we are seeing, that everyone is looking at. So at what point does a politician become that kind of person? Because not every young person has that resilience to see the truth and not be able to say it the way it is.
Okay, so I would say it again. What was your purpose for joining that political party in the beginning? You must have a purpose. People have lost purpose. People have lost passion.
Are you saying all the old politicians have lost purpose and passion?
You see, the old politicians, let me tell you, in their minds, I believe that they tell themselves, oh, we've paid our dues here. Oh, we've done this. Oh, we've done that. No. The truth is that you have asked the question that how does it begin to change? Meaning that a few things have happened. If you look at what happened in June 12, June 12 was the basis for how politics has become. The way it was cancelled, people came out to vote, people trusted the process, and then it was thrown back in their faces. And then there was war, bloodshed and all that. And that watered down the passion that people had, the belief that people had in the political system. And that was, for me, that was the beginning. But now, with the advent of social media, we need to begin to educate. We need to begin to educate people and bring back that spirit of patriotism. With the spirit of patriotism in us, then we begin to walk this path that I just analyzed. Okay. That your ambition must not override your passion and the vision that you have for the party.
Mr. Buhari, what's your own take on this matter? Because it goes back to, and you may also want to speak to the fact that the whole noise that we're hearing now, we know of people who are right now on national television, you know, frolicking among each other, who are hitherto political opponents, now sitting in the same room for one political function. Well, the more of these things that young people see, the more iffy they are about getting into the political fray.
Yeah, well, I totally understand you, and I've heard both speakers speak, and I think what is very, very apparent in all of this is to understand that for this country to succeed, as it is right now, we definitely need the strength of the old, the wisdom of the old. I mean, they've been through a lot. They understand a couple of things. And we cannot overemphasize the strength of the young. If these two cannot be married together, then I do not know how we can forge ahead as a country. I mean, I've listened to some young people who have come out openly to brazenly attack older politicians, call them names, and say they can never be in the same space with them. Some of them even call them evildoers. And I just want to say that even God himself, who created good, also left Satan to thrive. It means that for this whole world to work, there needs to be good and evil mixed together. We just need to have more good people in the fray. And if you look at even the solar system, you can see that even the star shines brightest in the dark. So I expect young people to disassociate themselves from the conversation around all of these people are so old, they cannot give us what we want. You cannot take it away from them that they have all the most of the experiences that can help us. But also we need a strength from young people to match with those experiences to see how we can forge ahead.
But Nigeria has done this before. My apologies, so, Mr. Buhari. Just a second, opinion, if you can hear me.
Just simply think. Yeah.
Just a second, Mr. Buhari, if you can hear me. Yes. This has happened before. In the build-up to the Third Republic, I think it was in 1989, yeah. 1989, 1990, the government of the day, under Babangida, banned all old politicians of the First and Second Republic, forbade them from participating in politics. And what happened? A totally new crop of politicians came up. That was when one of those people who came in at that time was the current president. You know, and the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also was in customs at the time and left customs to get into politics, got into some political family together, and that's how come we have the generation of political parties that we have now. So it's not like we must have these old politicians, you know, always at play all the time. If it happened before and it produced a new generation of politicians, what's to say that it can't happen again and it will work?
So historically, and I like the fact that you're picking it from the Third Republic, but it precedes the Third Republic. If you go back, you find out that most of the people who were in the First Republic, in clear terms, were threatened by the coup that happened in 1966. Most of them decided to flee. Most of them decided not to be part of this. Some of them even left the country. And then we came back again to the Second Republic, and we said we wanted to try it, the democratic exercise again. And those who emerged, we saw that after the first tenure, there was another coup that got some of them locked up, some of them tried, some of them haven't recovered, some of them died in trial, in detention, and things like that. It's further made that elitist class that I keep talking about, that is missing, almost eroded from the Nigerian space, not because they are totally not present, but because they do not want to participate in governance, in the sense that they fear that if they do participate, the similar things that have happened in the past might happen to them again. So when the former president Babangida came up with the whole idea that all old politicians were not going to compete, we had a lot of people who could give good governance, who were very, very articulate, smart, experienced, educated, say to themselves, I'm not going to get involved with these soldier boys anymore. I can get involved and something's going to come up and I'll probably be removed from the system totally. I rather will stay on the sideline. And that is when everybody, including people from my own local government who were just, you know, butchers in the market, decided to contest for chairmanship positions. Now they didn't have any government or governance experience. They had no clue. They had nothing. But they were present for elections, and they won. And so we started building a new kind of political elite that were disenfranchised from the kind of education and experience that a system would truly need. However, this is where we have found ourselves. We now have younger people who I believe are passionate. And I've heard some other politicians say, oh, young people just want to grab something. I do not think so. I've served with a lot of young people who truly, in all honesty, want to see a better country. Now they have mobile phones. They look at these mobile phones and they see what is happening around the world. And they want to see it happen here. They hope it happens here. And I've heard a lot of old people say, oh, these young people just want to buy cars and houses. And I say to them that you also want to buy islands across the world. I think we should all take a chill pill. We should all come together and see how we can marry this energy I'm talking about that these young people have, and this wisdom I'm talking about that these older people have, and see how we can forge ahead and have a country that will be beneficial to all of us.
All right, let's go around the room now, 30 seconds each. Counsel. Let's begin with you, Prof. What would be your counsel, and to whom directly? You have 30 seconds.
It's quite important that when we're talking about political participation, we should not focus only on the gladiatorial participation, wanting to get to the office or holding a position. That is just one aspect of it. There are 1 million and one other aspects of it that work together to ensure that the political system gets well. I don't have to be president or governor or minister to make a difference. By critically engaging the system, by building up social movements, organizing protests and rallies when necessary, I am participating in politics. I think for us to have access, we must go around all these areas. But if we focus only on the gladiatorial political participation, then access will never come, because almost everybody will want to one thing or the other, and nations don't own that.
Thank you, Prof. Mr. Buhari, 30 seconds. Your counsel, and to whom?
Yeah, thank you. I think political leadership must try as much as possible to reduce, or even if possible, stop dictating how they want to see the trajectory flow. I think that a people, especially a generation of people that we are breeding in Nigeria now, young people and what have you, also have a say, and they should be brought to the table. And at a time like this, it cannot be overemphasized. If we're talking about a lot of economic indicators that are showing that we are not thriving as we should, if we're talking about insecurity still, if we're talking about politicians coming on air every now and then to bash themselves, I think it's wrong for the polity. And as a matter of fact, I have also in the last couple of months been irritated watching some segments of the news where I will see one politician, all he does is come to insult the other politician, and I'm trying to mute the TV because I don't want my children to hear. I think we should be more cordial. I think we should be more respectful, and because we must understand that it's beyond just us. We've got a generation of people that are looking up to us, and if we keep making these mistakes, they will do worse.
Thank you so much. And Mrs. Banjoko, 30 seconds.
Okay, so thank you so much. I would just want to say that women should come out. They should come on board, because women form about 50% of the population, and women are the ones that know where the shoe pinches them when it comes to reproductive laws, policies around reproductive laws. Women must come out. Their voices must be heard. No, our voices must be heard, and so that our children will have better upbringing, better sense of patriotism. And I mean, the women are the base for they're the foundation for any nation.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mrs. Kate Banjoko is a former House of Reps aspirant on the platform of the APC. We've also had Ahmed Buhari, former presidential candidate of Sustainable National Party and former vice presidential candidate on the African Democratic Congress, ADC, platform. I wonder what you're thinking, how you're taking in what's happening in your party right now, as well as Professor Kayode Ishola.
I thought you were going to ask me.
I will get back to that. Professor Kayode Ishola, research professor at the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies, is a professor of political science in the University of Lagos. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, when we return, there is something that happens to everyone that we hardly prepare for. Question is why? That and more when we return.